Hi, Danielle D'Souza, mortgage broker with Win Mortgage. I have beautiful Sonia Taska. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, so I've been in real estate for almost 5 years now. I'm with Adams Cameron and Company Realtors here in the beautiful Palm Coast area. And I love this. So
Good. So you've had a lot of experience being almost 5 years. So you've had lots of transactions and closings and buyers and sellers.
I've seen quite a bit.
Yes,
So.
I'm sure. So tell us, so I want to just have this conversation about, because I think that people don't know what mortgage brokers do, and they don't necessarily know, like, I think the everyday, Jane and Joe or whatever, they just go to their bank. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just trying to educate a little bit about the public about that's fine to do that. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But sometimes going to banks or internet lenders, because they're online and then they're like, oh, let me just apply real quick, that there are other ways, and that sometimes working with a local lender, a local mortgage broker, someone that you can meet. I have to face you. I have to face the realtors and the clients because we all live here, mm-hmm. and we're all on word of mouth and referrals. So tell me if you've had a customer that has had a bad experience with a bank or an internet lender.
Absolutely. I can think of two that come to mind right off the bat. The first one, same thing, internet lender. I mean, I can't stress how much experience matters. Mm-hmm. It makes a big difference when you know that the other person that's handling your transaction, your mortgage transaction, has had experience with whatever it may be, FHA, conventional, whatever the situation is, 203K. So with the one, it was an internet lender, and unfortunately, a first-time buyer. And it was very sad because he was very excited. He had gotten his pre-approval, or they were working through the pre-approval, ended up receiving the letter, and then the lender came back and told them, oh, we made a mistake. We won't be able to approve you. And he was so devastated. And, in that situation, it's like you just took somebody's joy away because you made a mistake. And they chose their lender. So, you present options for them, but ultimately they're going to go with whoever they feel comfortable with.
Sure.
And in this situation, I wish he would have looked a little more before he went with that first route. And it ended up being an issue because the lender didn't have sufficient experience, did something wrong, that now caused him to be able to move forward with the purchase.
So he wasn't able to close?
He wasn't. Well, he wasn't even able to, we didn't get past the pre-approvals. The pre-approval period.
Okay.
Because it stopped right there. So I'm still working with them. We'll get them to where they need to be, but it's going to take a little bit of time.
Yeah.
So the next one is a transaction that I've had that, we went through the whole entire process close to closing, and unfortunately it fell apart. Along the way, the lender was, communicating to both sides of the transactions, oh, everything's looking good. We're going to be able to, close. It's just we need a couple more weeks. And to me, it wasn't making sense because I'm like, what's it taking so long? I mean, usually you get some sort of approval or, ready to close.
You hadn't had a conditional approval?
No conditional approval.
So is this the one that
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So let's just talk about that for a minute. So there were some clients a while back that had reached out, and they didn't fit the guidelines.
Correct.
And we have a lot of lenders and we have different options. In this particular, they just needed a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And so I told you, we can't do it, maybe later, right?
Right.
So then there was another, they found a lender that was it an internet lender?
It was an internet lender, and he came back saying that, yes, everything is we're going to be able to close on this. It's not going to be an issue. And, I was hesitant because
Yeah.
They've already had the discussion with another lender.
Yeah.
But, this lender was very confident that they can get them from A to Z, no issues. Well, along the way, the lender was communicating to both sides that the transaction was going to be able to be closed. So selling side, buying side.
Oh, okay.
Buying side, directly, communicating directly with both sides, both agents. Oh, this is going to be able to close. We're almost there. And when I started seeing that he wasn't providing what were the
like the normal things that you're used to,
right? The checklist that we're past the survey, we're past the appraisal,
and,
like those things. They were moving along, but it just something seemed off to me. And long and behold, last minute he couldn't get them approved, and it was because it's not. The bank that was providing the money had specific qualifications, requirements that they needed to meet. And those requirements were not met. And so therefore, they were going to be approved at a much higher rate, significantly higher. And that wasn't what was part of the contract. So in this specific situation, I think that had the lender kind of not communicated so much to the other side, it would have made things also a little bit easier in the transaction overall, because there was a lot of confusion. And then when we got closer to the closing side, to the closing date, that's when I was like, why haven't we gotten a conditional approval or, clear to close, or why hasn't these things happened just yet? And that's when I started doing a little bit digging with him, and I'm like, what's left? And he wasn't being very clear that the bank was wanting X amount of months of information, and that was not available. So again, I think that he might have had experience with many different transactions, but I think in this specific case where it's not a normal transaction, because it's how can I state that?
It's just special. So there's there are like conventional loans or FHA, VA, which are they're just certain guidelines, and that's like what we do every day. But then there are specific loans that are, they're like non-QM, so they're non-qualified mortgage, so they're different. And so they're going to have their own guidelines based on that lender. Yeah. And so usually, I mean, for something like that, like you have to look through those guidelines, like with a fine tooth comb to make sure.
Because, I mean, at the end, what's happening is you have an upset seller, an upset buyer, and a lot of confusion in the middle of a transaction between agents. Communication wasn't clear, and it just creates frustration for all sides when it didn't have to be like that to begin with.
Right.
So, looking and finding the right lender that has the right experience matters, because that's what's going to make or break the transaction as well too. I mean, many other things as well too, but that's a very, very important one.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, has it changed, or will it change the way you do business now?
No, I mean, I think I've always followed the same guidelines. I tell people, hey, shop around, make sure that the person that you are dealing with, that you feel comfortable. We're going to be working with this person for 30, 45, 60 days. So you got to make sure you're getting along with them as well too, but that they have the experience to be able to handle your transaction. And when it comes to these special type of loans, you have to make sure that they've not necessarily specialized, but it's ideal that they've had experience with them. So.
Yeah, and they have somebody to go with questions or something. Yeah, for sure.
So I will continue to follow the same steps, refer, tell them, hey, this is the list, speak to everybody that you feel comfortable with, get your qualification ahead of time. But if I see that person, that internet lender, it makes me kind of hesitant.
I think sometimes, and tell me, do you think that, I mean, these internet lenders and even banks sometimes, because banks, they might deal with initial person, but then after that, they might deal with other people.
I've dealt with that as well too.
And same with internet lenders too. Do you think it matters because these people won't necessarily see you or they're not going to see the person at the grocery store, you know, so like, it doesn't really matter to them because they're just on the phone and
you're just another call.
Yeah.
You're just another email that they have to answer. And it makes a big difference because, and I had this with another situation, the lender was out of state and they were on their own time and there was like 10 people part of that transaction. And there was a lot of confusion, a lot of back and forth, which created a lot of stress for the buyer. And I told him, I said, this is who you wanted to go with. You've had great experience with them in the past, but unfortunately, they're not necessarily familiar with the market here.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
And that matters.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. So that's all really good information.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And so what is one thing that you would tell people that want to buy a house today?
I would say definitely reach out to a lender, you know, reach out to your local realtor, me ideally.
Yes.
And I can put you in contact with the lenders that I know that I've worked with, that I've had transactions with in the past before. Also, if you have your own lender that you want to choose, absolutely, but just make sure that they're familiar with the market. Get that pre-qualification, that pre-approval letter ahead of time. And
submit all your documents.
All of your documents ahead of time. It makes a big difference.
Yes.
So, and it'll help with easing the stress. Halfway through the transaction.
For sure. Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.